My expectation is that since this deck was pretty much busted in Alchemy, yeah, I don't know if it was like busted. It's hard to gauge that in the beginning of a new format when there's a lot of untuned stuff running around. But it felt pretty busted. My expectation is it's going to be even better in Standard. Well, we're on the play. Retrieve socks. Alright. We can do that. Yeah, I think we can keep this. And we get to loot. What are the chances the opponent's playing something aggressive that punishes me for keeping a hand of 6 lands? Be right back. Well, that didn't go particularly well. In fact, that is probably the new record for the fastest he has ever decided to just book it. Oh, I'm sorry, did I ruin the chair stream? I'll try to do better in the future. Alright, you want out socks? Yeah. I was gonna comment that that's the most indignant I've ever heard him give me a meow. Pulled him away from a fireplace that he was sitting in front of while watching figure skating. What dark magic is Chris pulling to play turns in a format where Epiphany is banned? Well, very little, in fact. I just put the other copy of Epiphany into my deck. Green-black snow. Interesting. Alright, well, if the opponent doesn't want to do anything, then I suppose we're just going to draw a bunch of cards. Alright, well, I don't really want the Alchemist's Gambit right now, unfortunately. So I guess I'm going to take this Magma Opus and then just kind of whiff. Guess I'd rather have the Alchemist's Gambit in the deck. Oh, the other copy of the Epiphany is the thing we just put on the bottom of the yard. We just have more extra turn spells. They banned one of them, not all of them. Oh, Binding of the Old Gods on my Celestus. I needed that to stop drawing lands, opponent. Alright, well, I guess we jam Hinata. Since we have a duplicate, we might as well. COX, thanks for the follow. Glad you're enjoying the stream. If they kill the Hinata, then that's them not doing something else with their turn, and if they don't kill the Hinata, then we get to do a little bit more damage to the face with Magma Opus instead of needing to play Hinata. Oh, actually, I can't play Hinata and play 2-mana Magma Opus with no cards in play. Or with no creatures in play other than Hinata. I need my opponent to have at least one creature or a planeswalker or something to cast a 2-mana Opus. Because you need to split the damage 4 ways. I can do my opponent, myself, and Hinata, but luckily our opponent doesn't kill Hinata. What do you do? Get big? Okay. Well, I doubt my opponent has much in the way of counter spells, so I think I can wait to Opus until their turn, so I get a little more value out of the tap down. Would like to leave up blue mana, I think. Blue and white, so that we can get possibly indestructibility for Hinata, possibly an unsummon. Hinata and Opus are our new way of just... I don't even know what they're necessarily equivalent to out of the old Alrund's Epiphany lists, to be honest. I guess they're more like... Nah, they're not really directly equivalent to anything, honestly. I guess the closest thing is, like, Lier being a value engine with Divide by Zero. Unfortunately for us, Binding the Old Gods does not target Hinata, so it doesn't cost more. They're the equivalent iteration and Windfall. That's true, that's true. We did have a lot of fun casting like 3 copies of Magma Opus in a single turn with Galvanic. You just have a lot of cards in the deck that are kind of good value engines. Hinata only costing 4 mana. I've been continuously impressed by how much this card just, like, has an entirely reasonable stat line. Like, 4 mana 4/4 actually does block aggro stuff kind of nicely. Spirit of Aldergard. That would be annoying if it was in play because it could block my 4/4 that's threatening to kill you, opponent. Now we've seen 0 snow payoffs, which has me slightly concerned about the potential of board wipes here. Kinda makes me not want to play this Hinata. I suspect playing this could be a mistake, but there's a lot of potential that if I don't play the Hinata, my opponent just binding the Old Gods to kill my 4/4. Okay, well, I guess they didn't draw an answer. I played against the Hinata deck once so far, and I've concluded it is just as fun to lose to as is at Epiphany. Ooh. That's high praise. I have certainly loved playing Is It Epiphany mirror matches. I don't yet know whether the Hinata mirror matches are going to be interesting in the same way, but I hope so. Alright, well, our opponent didn't seem to be playing creatures, so I'm just going to go into the default plan of board into Disdainful Strokes and Behold the Multiverses if my opponent is doing something that is slow. They're not on counterspells, so I don't particularly need to trim Hinatas or Magma Opuses. This leaves me with very little removal. Am I okay with that? I mean, I do still have Magma Opus and Valorous Stance. I wonder if I want another copy of Hall of the Storm Giants to have more ways to answer creatures post-board and control mirrors. Possibly? If Hinata decks become a big deal, maybe I can play mono green again, so I guess it works out for me. I don't know that Hinata is actually bad against mono green, in the same way that Epiphany was really good against mono green, or could be built to be really good against mono green. But Hinata itself is actually like a really well-statted creature against green, so I think it might actually be better than older Epiphany lists were. I mean, Magma Opus is probably a better card than Epiphany against green. At the bare minimum. Alright. I don't know what we're playing against, so we'll kind of just roll with this. Izzet versus Mono Green was kind of in a weird spot, because it wasn't that Izzet couldn't beat Mono Green, it was more like metagame considerations about Izzet couldn't afford enough space in the sideboard to beat Mono Green. But like, if you just played 4 Fading Hopes and 3, whatchamacallums, bouncy 7-drops, your matchup against Mono Green was just good at that point. Alright. So we need to make sure to play one of these Riverglide Pathways on red. Still some graveyard shenanigans, I guess. Old Rutstein is something we didn't see last game. But, yeah, opponent does not appear to be doing much. Need to make sure to play a red source next turn to cast Windfall. Old Rutstein, okay. Could be kind of annoying eventually. Undead Butler. Alright, so opponent's doing some kind of mass graveyard strategy. We just haven't seen any payoff for that yet. More treasure. Alright, opponent accelerating. Yeah, current Orzhov absolutely eating mono green to death, I would believe. But, okay, there's our payoff. Dollhouse of Horrors reanimating creatures with ETBs. Got it. Do I Unexpected Windfall just to loot away a land here? I don't think giving up the treasures is worth it, so I think we just negate and then Unexpected Windfall next turn. But yeah, I think this deck is, like, hyper favored against Orzhov, even without more tuning than this, so could definitely push a lot of Orzhov out of the format if it starts to be anything resembling meta. Throne of Death. Okay. I think I'm willing to allow my opponent to have that one. Well, I certainly didn't board into much that answers a big board state like this. I'm willing to spend one treasure to counter Dollhouse. That is acceptable. Celestus, okay. Although is your top end being more interactable likely to make you worse against Orzhov? The matchup against Orzhov for both this deck and is less about your win conditions lining up against Orzhov in any particular way, and more about which deck gets more card advantage. Chris, what makes you like Expressive Iteration in this deck, but not in the previous Galvanic decks? I guess the curve is slightly lower in some ways. The biggest reason that Expressive Iteration was bad previously was more to do with the metagame that it was playing into, and how you couldn't afford to play Expressive Iteration on the draw in Izzet Epiphany Mirrors ever. Oh, just straight up mill 2 Toxicals. Okay. I would probably wind up cutting Expressive Iteration in this deck if the metagame gets to the point where the mirror match is like 90% of the matches you care about, but I do not get that impression currently. But the curve is not meaningfully lower. That's not what makes the difference there. Expressive Iteration is a wonderful turn 3 play when you're a white aggro deck trying to beat it as well. Yeah. If you have enough card advantage, then you can afford to spend your early turns not casting Expressive Iteration. And that's like the ideal place to be as an Izzet deck. I think Expressive Iteration is a totally fine and reasonable card to play. It just has times in standard decks where it's not optimal. I definitely don't have this deck optimized to any extent yet, so it's not a very big deal that we might be playing a card that could end up not being optimal technically. My opponent is currently 1 mana short of activating Dollhouse of Horrors. Why did I play a land when I had another Expressive Iteration that I probably wanted to cast? The world may never know. Why can't you cast Expressive Iteration in the mirror on the draw? You couldn't cast Expressive Iteration on the draw in Izzet Epiphany Mirrors, because if you did, you were guaranteed to allow your opponent to resolve an Unexpected Windfall if they had one. And it's just so bad for you if your opponent resolves a mana ramp spell and has the treasures up to counter your attempt to play an Unexpected Windfall, not in response, but in turn, that, like, it's just kind of unacceptably miserable. kind of want to Expressive Iteration here. But I already messed up. Am I following a mess up by playing that land with more mess up if I don't Expressive Iteration? I think I need to play around the potential risk that I kind of like don't find anything off the... I don't know. I'm worried that I need to have enough card advantage if my, like, Celestus gets blown up and if this Expressive Iteration doesn't hit. On turn 2, you can get Expressive Iteration for Spiked, sure, but mostly it's just that casting Expressive Iteration on turn 2 isn't good. You're casting a Sorcery Speed Anticipate, which just kind of sucks. Why would you want to do that? So it ended up being that basically every time you could ever cast Expressive Iteration, it was usually better in the mirror to foretell a Behold the Multiverse instead. There were matchups against aggro decks where Expressive Iteration was a lot better than Behold the Multiverse, but I still wasn't of the opinion that Expressive Iteration actually was terribly important in those matchups. You could get away without it. So it was just better to cut Expressive Iterations to play cards that were better in the mirror instead, in my opinion. It made you lean harder on Lier against aggressive decks, but it just so happened that that was totally viable. Yeah, Dollhouse resolves, and they have the ability to reanimate a Toxrill, which is annoying. Oh, and these come back as artifacts too, which I guess means they're abradable, so that's technically a good thing here. Okay. They don't reanimate Toxrill, they reanimate a gel. But I can actually get my Hinata back if I kill that? Okay. Well, Expressive Iteration, that whiffs. So 4, 8. I'm taking Xaxes next turn if they animate Dollhouse and I don't have a response. Although I could activate Celestus. If I do that, I go up to 9, and I'm not exactly dead on board. Although I'm getting in dangerous territory to Meat Hook. If I Galvanic and Behold, I have 4 mana left. My removal spells are basically non-existent. I'm going to Behold, and then I'm going to activate Celestus. I don't think I actually want Hinata here. I'm looking for Time Walk, mostly. Alright, we're going to go to 10 and hope that's good enough to keep us alive. Three, 6, 7, 5. Alright, so if we do find a Time Walk, we get to take 3 extra turns, which probably wins. But I definitely did not board into... Oh, I cut all my Abrades too, didn't I? Yeah, I definitely did not board into something that has the ability to fight a bunch of random tokens efficiently. I suppose I'm dead to another Dollhouse if they have 1 extra mana as well. They can reanimate something with the first Dollhouse, play a land, play the second Dollhouse, reanimate something with the second Dollhouse, and they have 3 3/3s attacking me in addition to a bunch of 1-power creatures. Okay, well, we draw Disdainful Stroke, so we get to take that off the field if needs be. But that's not a Time Walk. I guess I also have Magma Opus, which 8, If we draw one of the 4 Magma Opuses, I get to cast 3 Magma Opuses. So we have like 6 cards in our deck that we can draw into that are very, very good. Well, gets back Binding, which can blow up Celestus, but they can't cast it this turn. So I guess I still get to loot? No? What are they? Oh, they cast the Revival. Right. Didn't do anything, but they did cast it. Okay. Also, they didn't activate Dollhouse? That's curious. Okay. Well, let's try to find a Magma Opus. Now we're only going to get to copy it once, but that would still be enough. If we whiff on this, we can cast the other Expressive Iteration too. Okay, well, we can just hit Alchemist's Gambit. That works. So, Valorous Stance, exile Jwari Disruption. No. Put Jwari Disruption on the bottom, exile Alchemist's Gambit. That's what's actually happening here. Alright. Then we Galvanic. Then we take 2 turns. Alright. I could Galvanic this Expressive Iteration. I feel like I probably ought to do that. I've still got a backup Galvanic anyway, and I just really want to find Magma Opus. Alright, so let's Galvanic. Let's Expressive. Looking at a lot of... What? Only as a sorcery. Okay, so I can actually top down Dollhouse with a Magma Opus if needs be. There we go. Alright. So we'll put Magma Opus in hand. Probably cast Windfall this turn to get some mana advantage. In this Expressive Iteration, we would probably like to exile a land, although that's not strictly necessary. Alright, well, let's take both. I don't need Behold the Multiverse. We'll take Jwari Disruption. That might just randomly be useful. Exile Jwari Disruption, which we can play. I think I want to use my Galvanic on Opus. Get rid of Riverglide. I could use more red mana, probably. Geistlight isn't necessarily mana leak in a Spirit deck, because one of the big benefits of Mana Leak is that you can play it on turn 2. Whereas Geistlight kind of turns into a spell that defends tempo, but doesn't proactively stop threats. Slightly different. Could Valorous Stance old Rutstein if we wanted to, but I don't think I want to. Let's get rid of Stormcarved Coast. I got plenty of lands at the moment. Okay. Okay, this is the effect that is preventing damage, not the effect that's taking an extra turn. I'm gonna have to get used to that. Alrighty, well... I wonder how close to killing the opponent we're gonna get here. Pass to the opponent's turn. Cast 2 Galvanic Iterations, kill 3 1/1s, and deal 1 to our opponent's face. Then eventually kill the Undead Butler, tap down Dollhouse, and a bunch of lands, I guess, is the plan here. It's true, we do get to loot first, because I didn't actually cast anything on this turn. It's a bummer I don't have a way to kill the gelatinous cube before casting Opus. That'd be a lot cheaper. 5, 4, 4. I get 2 mana left over? Which I guess gives me Valorous Stance plus Disdainful Stroke after the Hinata comes down, which is pretty nifty. Let's... I don't know. Let's loot away that one. Is Rutstein's trigger reflexive? No. So we can let that resolve, because it might make a bug token, and if it did, we wanted to be able to kill the bug token. Alright, Galvanic Iteration once, Galvanic Iteration twice. Oh, they can digest Hinata in response here, so I don't get it back. That's kind of annoying. Not the end of the world, but kind of annoying. Alright, let's see. 1 damage, 1 damage, 2 damage? Because I do have to copy the number of targets and the distribution of damage. So that lets me deal 2 damage to the Rutstein again, 1 damage, 1 damage, 2 damage. I think. And it's basically fine. So we targeted those. Now we target Rutstein, Butler, and Insect, and then face, Butler, fizzle the last point of damage. And I'm tapping down the 2 black sources, and then the treasure token in a forest, I think. Oh, I did make a mistake, though. I can rectify it, though, because I had 1 spare point of damage that didn't matter. I'm not supposed to target this gelatinous cube with the bottom Magma Opus, that is the original one, because they can float a bunch of mana, then dissolve later. I would rather kill the gelatinous cube with the first to resolve Magma Opus. So that they have to inform me. I guess this actually ends up working out exactly the same. They have to choose which lands to tap down to activate the gelatinous cube before I choose the targets for 1 Magma Opus, is the long and short final result of it. Okay, well, they just don't dissolve the Hinata. That works for me. Boop. Oh, okay. I guess the way that I did this actually does result in them taking 1 less point of damage overall. Alright, cool, we drew more Magma Opuses. Alright, the math on this is kind of complicated. It's going to take me a little bit to get used to this. Oh, I guess I could have done not 2 and 2 damage to the Rutstein. I could have done 2 damage to the face with the bottom Opus. Okay. I have learned. Okay, well, we're going to go to my turn. I'm going to play this Hall. We're going to take an extra turn. Yeah, it seems good. Seems, honestly, pretty good. See? It's like we're still playing Alrund's Epiphany, except our birds are 4/4s now. They thought banning the 2 best cards in the deck was enough to stop it. Oh, that reminds me. I need to go see if the alternate art for Hinata is available. Think you have to be petting a cat to evil chuckle like that? We did try, but the cat decided that he was not interested. He preferred his warm fireplace. Boop, boop. Didn't even need the extra turn, opponent. I just had it anyway. I guess I should have made sure I wasn't decking myself, but I didn't think that was likely. Alright, well, our hand can't cast anything, but we can Fading Hope something, and negate something. We can Valorous Stance something. Alright. Yeah, not being able to play the reverse side of anything, I guess that makes sense. Hey, there we go. Land drops. I probably should have played the planes and not tried to care about Expressive Iteration next turn. Oh no. Smoldering Egg. I wish I could Valorous Stance that. Anyway, I guess I can just Expressive Iteration now, huh? This works. Ooh, Magma Opus is so incredibly tempting, but Unexpected Windfall is just sort of a better card. Unfortunate. At least the Magma Opus is still in the deck. Mostly I'm just spending a bunch of time whining about my 2-for-1 not being good enough. Do you think the opponent would play Spell Pierce in their Is It Smoldering Egg deck? I confess I'm nervous that they would. I'm half tempted to jam Hinata here, but the opponent's probably playing Thundering Rebuke, which doesn't make that super exciting. Pretty sure Opus and Windfall are the exact same card. Yeah, but Windfall makes 2 mana, so it's a better card. They're very close, though. I'm so nervous about Spell Pierce. Alright, I'm gonna be a coward and just play the Hinata. Fading Hope? No? What did they have priority for that they didn't actually cast there? Oh, hey, cool. Nothing. Sweet. So I win now. Not sure exactly what the deal with that was, but anyway. Could be Spikefield, that's true. Oh, it was Fading Hope, but Fading Hope cost 2 with Hinata in play. Right. Absolutely. Let's see. I would like to Unexpected Windfall, discarding probably Jwari Disruption. Okay. I could use a counterspell on this Fading Hope, but I don't necessarily even need to do that. I think I'm just okay with this. I'll just replay the Hinata later. I'm gonna have counterspell protection up at that point anyway. Okie dokie. I would like to play a Hinata opponent. Boop, 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 boop. What you got? Saw it coming. Oh no. Alright, well, I have to negate that. We have more Fading Hopes, it would seem. Do you want to Fading Hope your own egg, opponent? Oh, they might be debating... No, wait, they can't spell Pierce Hinata. That isn't legal. Yeah, okay. They do get 2 counters from Fading Hoping here. Alright, I would like to destroy a Smoldering Egg in response to this. Do I want to Fading Hope the other one? So they can't do damage to anything? Probably. Oh, I guess if they have a Spikefield Hazard here, then I would prefer to Fading Hope in response. Otherwise, after Galvanic resolves, they can Spikefield Hinata for 2 and ping it for 2 with Smoldering Egg. That wouldn't, like, destroy me, but it would make me sad. Anyway, that went pretty well. So I don't think I want Abrade. I do think I want Thundering Rebuke. I don't know much about what the opponent's deck is doing, but it's playing Sod Coming with Galvanic Iteration, which makes me think it's unlikely they're playing Lier. They are probably playing Goldspan Dragon, which makes me want like some number of Disdainful Strokes. Abrade seems bad. We might just run it like this. I kind of want to bring in Behold the Multiverses, but I don't really know what for. I'm sort of nervous about trying to jam Expressive Iteration when my opponent's likely to be playing Goldspan Dragon. Yeah, alright. I can just cut Expressive Iteration for Behold the Multiverses and Disdainful Strokes. That's probably better. Probably. Alright, there. That's a plan. Ooh, hey, Mary. Thanks for the resub. I appreciate the support. If you Geist Channeler Magma Opus, is it still 2 mana? Yeah, because Geist Channeler and Hinata both can't reduce colored mana costs. They can only reduce generic mana costs. Alright, Alchemist's Gambit, not immediately useful. Disdainful Stroke is fine. I am sort of in trouble if the opponent plays an egg on 2. I wonder if I should just be playing my own eggs? Not having any Spikefield Hazards is going to make this tough. Yeah, I should definitely be playing my own eggs. Well, we do get to Jwari Disruption that, because the opponent didn't play a land. Tough for the opponent. Happy for me. Alright, so we get our Celestus down before the opponent represents Goldspan Dragon. That's nice. Iteration is bad against Dragon because you have to tap out. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier for the opponent to have an opening to resolve the Goldspan Dragon. Even if you, like, leave up Disdainful Stroke, it becomes easier for them to, like, on 6 mana, have Goldspan Dragon plus Malevolent Hermit, and just get it through that way. So by about the point where you have enough mana to leave up a counterspell plus cast Expressive is also about the point where your opponent tends to have the mana to deal with one counterspell anyway. Here, I think we're happy to loot away Alchemist's Gambit. It's not likely to be super useful in a position where our opponent has Malevolent Hermit because I don't have Spike Fields. Expressive Iteration's kind of inconvenient. We might be vulnerable to just getting Delvered out here with the sideboard plan I've set up. I'm not 1,000,000% excited about that. Ironically, this is sort of one of the situations where the birds from Alrund's Epiphany can be very meaningful. I'd like my opponent to just try to resolve a Goldspan Dragon for no reason. I would actually get some use out of my cards that way. No? Okay. More negates. Not good answers to Hermit, though. And no card draw spells thus far. Awkward. So I could animate Hull the Storm Giants and try to block Malevolent Hermit here. Unfortunately, I think I need one more mana before I can do that. I want to have Negate up if they try to, like, Fading Hope it. 2 Foretold cards. Probably Behold the Multiverses. Okay. Celestus is useless. That kind of hurts. Tempted to activate Celestus so that I can try to loot into a land. Well, those also could be Zod Cummings, couldn't they? Alright, well, this is pretty bad. Opponent's developing their board and continuing to make land drops, and we're failing to do that. Not actively looting either. If I had one more mana, I would be willing to activate Celestus, but I can't risk not having 4 mana on my opponent's turn for 2 counterspells. Whoa, opponent? You can't do that. Opponent, you super can't do that. Do they have Spell Pierce? Or do they think I'm just not going to block the Hermit? They must have Spell Pierce, but okay. Well, I'm going to animate my Hull, block Hermit, go to 4, but now you don't have a Hermit opponent. I still miss the land drop, which hurts a lot. Okay, well, still got a pass. Benevolent Geist. Opponent spells can't be countered. It makes my stuff kinda useless. But the opponent gives us an opening to resolve Behold the Multiverse, or at least to try to. Hinata and a land. Pretty tempting? Not easy to handle the Hall of the Storm Giants right now, though. Unfortunately, we gotta let that happen. Non-creature spells can't be countered, so we can still counter a Goldspan Dragon. It also means that their Fading Hopes can answer Hull now through Ward, which is a problem. Alright, we're going to discard Celestus. We're going to hope the opponent fires up Hull of the Storm Giants and doesn't have a counterspell, which is unlikely. Opponent does not go for that. Puts us down to 2. We can fire off Magma Opus here at the end of turn and continue making land drops. It's pretty bad. This is a strong indication of why missing land drops is the wrong thing to do in control mirrors. Alright, so the opponent just counters the Magma Opus. Yep. If I play Hinata, we jump block Hull. It's still not useful. Now I just have to hope the last card isn't a counterspell, which is basically impossible. Oh, hey, cool. I guess I regret playing my land first. Should have played the Jwari Disruption as a land. Alright, well, we didn't find anything and we didn't gain any life. I really need to gain a life so that Benevolent Geist doesn't kill me. Oh, that is true. Oh, I guess I turned off the alternate arts is why Hinata's not showing up? Maybe? 3, 6, that's... Okay, so I have to activate this to gain a life to make Benevolent Geist not lethal, and then I need to figure out some way to not die to Hull, which is probably going to be chump blocking with Hinata. Ideally, we find another Magma Opus here. That's not helpful. Probably should have kept that, actually. Alright, so unfortunately, opponent's now working with full information. And we're not looting. Oh, it was a Demon Bolt. Oh, so I actually had a chance. Holding up Hall. Not a very good one, though. Oh, well. Okay, okay. 2 mini mist land drops. Let's see. We've not really been able to tell whether or not the opponent's on a Goldspan Dragon plan. I still have to assume they are, but maybe I'm not supposed to play this many Disdainful Strokes if they're not actually playing Windfall. Not playing Windfall in a egg deck seems wrong, but I also don't know how you would build an egg deck without Divide by Zero anyway. So something the opponent's doing is different from what my definition of a typical Goldspan Dragon egg deck is anyway. No, I couldn't counter non-creature spells. I wonder if I'm supposed to cut Valorous Stance as a removal/protection spell and just accept a mana base with a lot less white sources in exchange for getting to play like a couple of Spikefield Hazards. Yeah, I still don't actually have like any good answers to Hermits. Generally, the correct answer to Hermits is eggs, but I don't know if eggs are good enough without Divide by Zero. That's a curious pickle to be in. I think we still run this back. Is iteration better on the play? It gets better, but I don't know that it's... Like, it improves. I don't know if it improves over Behold the Multiverse. My expectation is probably not, but I might be overrating how controlling my opponent is and underrating how aggressive they are, because that sort of equation is based on the idea that the opponent is trying to play a draw-go game, which might not be what this opponent is actually doing. Yeah, Hermit, there's no real point countering that, or, well, bouncing it. They just make a land drop next turn and replay it with the same counterspell up anyway. Yeah, it's kind of a problem. Hey, Nominus! Thanks for the subscription. Resubscription. I continue to appreciate the support. Yeah, this is where not having Spikefield is beginning to hurt quite a bit. What you got for me, opponent? Malevolent Hermit number 2. Yeah, that's a huge problem. Okay, well, we can Fading Hope that to try to prevent a little bit of damage and scry. Could Fading Hope again, but I kind of can't afford that. I sort of need Hinata. Sort of have not found Hinata. Well, maybe I'm just playing egg then. in the sideboard. Maybe that's just the life we're living now. Alright, the lack of card draw is not helping. I guess Lier's another option to try to fight this, but then my counterspell package is not exciting. Well, there's something. Trouble is, how difficult is it for me to actually resolve Hinata? The lack of another white source here kind of hurts, actually. I can't Valorous Stance in the same turn to protect Hinata from a Demon Bolt. Mostly I'm expecting that my opponent's gonna saw it coming me. Yeah, I can't actually jam Hinata here, which probably means I don't have a real chance either. Hullbreaker Horror. Okay, well, that's tough. How do I beat that? This must mean they have Unexpected Windfall. They just haven't played any? Weird. I have no clue what the opponent's deck looks like. Yeah. And they had the land drop, huh? I don't think they do that if they don't have the extra mana to represent the Hermit. Okay, so that raises an interesting question. What do we need to do to make Egg a playable sideboard card here? It is true that Egg gets less counters if we have Hinata in play and are casting spells, but in that scenario, we have a Hinata in play and we're casting spells, so like, we're probably still fine. The Japanese art was styles. Weird. I wonder why that was coded in a way that seemed to have functioned different then. Curious, curious, curious. What did I just cut? Let's see. I cut an Abrade from the sideboard. I cut a Fading Hope from the sideboard. And I cut a... Did I cut like some random counterspell, I think, from the sideboard? And then I put in 3 eggs, and then I cut a Needleverge Pathway and a Plains for 2 Spikefield Hazards. Disdainful Stroke? Okay, yeah, that might have been it. The untapped overlay should be updated now that we're actually in game to confirm or deny that. Don't mind me, opponent. I definitely don't have a Spikefield Hazard represented here or anything. Black-red in Standard? So, some kind of artifacts deck? Sacrifice deck to begin with. Alright, well, I would like to kill the Shambling Ghast with the Spikefield Hazard, because at least that's a 1-for-1. But yeah, this looks like that artifact sacrifice deck thing. I've seen a couple of variations on this so far. So uncertain which one it is. But this is why we are playing a lot of copies of Abrade. Because most of the versions of this deck I've seen don't function super well whenever they don't have the black-red sacrifice artifact. They kind of require that to function. That one, yeah. So they sack the blood token, make a 1/1. And then we will Abrade that Oni Cult Anvil, because that sounds like a pain to deal with. Yeah. Oh, Experimental Synthesizer hitting only lands. No luck. Absolutely no justice. Okay. No auto tapper. We would like to have the correct colors of mana up so that we can cast Jwari Disruption or Valorous Stance. So now hopefully this is the part of the game where it turns out Hinata is a Wilderness Reclamation that just is a 4/4 blocker that shuts off aggro. That would be swell. I keep getting nervous thinking I don't have enough removal, and then Hinata shows up and reminds me, oh yeah, creatures are actually like a form of removal. I forgot about that. Voltaic Surge deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If this spell's additional cost was paid, it deals 4 damage instead. Wow, alright. Well, anyway. Would like to make my creature indestructible now. Sweet! Alright, well, now we need to actually find stuff to do, so that's Expressive Iteration's job. Oh hey, Magma Opus. It seems like a good card. Also Fading Hope. Do we want to Fading Hope? I don't actually want to Fading Hope. So I guess I'm just going to make the land drop with Jwari Disruption. I only need 3 mana with Magma Opus. Alright, well, so we'll go to combat and swing at the opponent, because why not? And we'll stop on their upkeep and deal... Opponent, you might need to not just concede if your opponent sets an upkeep stop with Hinata and then starts mousing over your stuff. That seems like it's getting set up to get bluffed out a lot. I mean, yes, I was winning that game, but still. It's a tiny bit presumptuous. No? Let's see, what are we doing here? I mean, all my cards are kinda good. I'd sorta like to play a Lier. Yeah, why not? Let's cut some negates, play some Liers. Fading Hope's probably bad, I guess. Is Seismic Wave good against them? I guess it kills, like, a bunch of random 1-drops. Which they do have a lot of. Yeah, let's give it a shot. We'll see how Seismic Wave does. I could also board in Behold the Multiverse out of fear of my opponent playing Go Blank post board. Hey, Arena Craft Podcast. Thank you for the raid. How'd the stream go? So by the way, explain to me the Alrund's Epiphany over... Alchemist's Gambit over Alrund's Epiphany. Well, so they banned Alrund's Epiphany, and for some reason they thought that would ban Alrund's Epiphany, but they forgot about the fact that we can just play Alrund's Epiphany at home, and Alrund's Epiphany at home is still pretty good. But I want more card draw. And I can probably just take out Alchemist's Gambit against aggro decks to bring in, like... Do both of them. No, do 1 and 1. I don't know. I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound fun. Who needs Valorous Stance? I don't need to protect my creatures from anything. I'm not a coward. I'll die drawing cards. Dual Strike hits Gambit. That is true, but it misses Magma Opus, which I think is a lot of the fun. No white sources, although I guess I can cycle a Magma Opus to deal with that. We're on the draw, so we can't Jwari Disruption and Unicode Anvil. We'll just draw on Abrade and then an Expressive Iteration and everything will be fine. Alright, well, Expressive Iteration, that's a start. Hey, not an Unicode Anvil. Sweet. That said, I still don't actually have an answer to the Magda, which is maybe a problem. Magda's a cool choice in this list. It just makes a bunch of random artifacts for you to sacrifice. I dig that. Does the new Tamiyo have the potential to be played in Historic? No, I don't think so. The new Tamiyo is kind of weak. I don't really see it seeing play in anything outside of, like, Brawl formats. Oh, okay, I see. He's sacking treasures actually triggers Unicult Anvil without Unicult Anvil needing to tap out. Alright, well, we're definitely gonna Jwari Disruption that, because that's a lot of damage I can't handle. Teach by Example also has copy power, but Galvanic tends to just be the best choice for a copy spell if you have access to it, which I guess is every format right now, other than, like, Pauper. Mostly because it's actually a 2-for-1. Being a 2-for-1 is a pretty big deal. Ooh, Spikefield Hazard is excellent. I want to take Hinata here, but I actually still don't have white mana. I guess I could set up for a turn where I cycle Magma Opus next turn, and the turn after that can play Hinata Magma Opus. It's tempting to get the Lier here because then I get to flashback Magma Opuses and that's fun. But it's probably supposed to be Hinata for that specific plan. Alright, do get to kill the Magda, which is cool. During your turn. Okay. Oh, and they can't sacrifice the creature to ping us for 1 either. Nifty. Mix them to avoid Test of Talents. Yeah. I tend to think that's not worth it, just because Galvanic is so much better that it's worth the potential of getting hurt by Test of Talents. Because, like, your opponent still has to actually Test of Talents your thing for that to make a difference. Alright. We actually do get to spend a little bit of our mana for telling Behold the Multiverse here, because we didn't have anything better to do anyway. Unfortunately, the opponent's going to drain a lot of life here, and we haven't found an Abrade. So we are in danger of just dying to Unicult Anvils. Cycle the Magma Opus. Alchemist's Gambit, not helpful yet, but could be helpful eventually. Alright, how are we playing this? Oh, am I supposed to kill all of these? Oh, I think I was supposed to kill all those on my turn and force them to top deck another artifact to restart the Unicult Anvil chain. Is it anything or just an artifact? Just an artifact. Okay, so they actually did give me the opening to redo this again. But most of their deck is artifacts, so they'll probably be able to top deck something. They can also just sack an Unicult Anvil if they want, although that I don't mind so much. Okay, Seismic Wave, not bad. We still have a blocker for the Epicure. Go blank is annoying, but we have the Behold the Multiverse, so I think we can just get rid of Alchemist's Gambit and Pathway here. This is one of those scenarios where I'm extremely happy my opponent boarded into Go Blank, because what would actually be scary is if the opponent was pressuring my life total rather than my resources. So we're going to Galvanic. We're going to Behold. Do I want Spikefield? Probably not. Do I want Celestus? Probably also not. Another Galvanic. Okay, Hinata, probably. Seismic Wave, I don't think so. Oh, maybe I did want the Celestus for the life gain potential? Alright, well, we can't really attack here. My life total is too delicate right now to take 1 damage. Howdy, hey, Miss Shay. How goes it? Oh, Deadly Dispute. Alright, that's actually pretty annoying. The opponent's got 1/1s again, and unfortunately, Onicult Anvil makes artifacts that don't die to Seismic Wave. Well, at least they don't all die to Seismic Wave. One of them dies to Seismic Wave. Whoa, okay. Kind of clicked faster than I wanted there. Was not my intention to have that go away immediately. But I guess playing it on white is fine. It's not great, but it doesn't hurt. Let's see. Could Seismic Wave to kill a 1/1? I could Galvanic Iteration Seismic Wave to kill both 1/1s. I mean, I guess I could do that with Hinata too, actually. I kind of assume I'm supposed to want to do that. Cool. Opponent chooses to block here, which means that artifact dies now and doesn't stick around to make more creatures. We deal 2 damage to the construct, choose our opponent, we get to kill that for 1 mana. And we hold up Behold and Jwari Disruption. Opponent has to find more artifacts to start the Onicult Anvil thing. Shambling Ghast is not an artifact yet, but represents being one probably relatively soon. We hope the opponent doesn't have another Deadly Dispute. That would be pretty bad for us. Definitely feels like a situation in which I probably need... Yuck. Probably want the 4th Abrade, I'm thinking. Capone Brothers! Thanks for the raid! How'd the stream go? You join us playing... basically Alrund's Epiphany in Standard, sort of. Okay, so they get a treasure. They put us to 4. I think I have to let this happen. So they put us to 2. Inconveniently. Land's not helpful. Needs something meaningful to Galvanic Iteration. Magma Opus. You know what? I'm going to say that probably counts as meaningful to Galvanic Iteration. Now, if I were good at Magic, knowing that I'm going to 2, would I Magma Opus on my opponent's turn? Or do I die if I try to do that? Not streaming gameplay right now, but live openings? Oh, fun! Oh. I've been tempted to do that, but I also, don't open product much. I think that I actually need to... I guess I can give the opponent the option to sack something with Oni Cult Anvil here. If they don't sack something with Oni Cult Anvil now, then I can Opus on their turn, but if they do sack something with Oni Cult Anvil now, then I want to Opus on my turn. I'm assuming they're going to sack something here because that like actually represents lethal and stuff. Okay, so wait, I go to 2. If I let them untap... Oh, I might have been able to let them untap if I had a blocker, but without a blocker, that's not an option. Okay, so 2, 4, leave up 2 mana. Okay, so Galvanic. Opus. Yep. Tap down 2 permanents that don't matter. So this kind of just comes down to whether my opponent top decks an artifact or not. I could also top deck a Magma Opus of my own. I could also top deck an Abrade. That's certainly interesting. Okay. Alright, so now even if they top deck an artifact, that's not lethal. And I got Jwari Disruption up. And we're representing lethal next turn. Woo! Alright! Well, that was concerningly close. We could have Galvanic Abraded. Oh, that's true. I wonder what kind of out did the opponent have in that scenario? They could have Epicured me. Epicure was a lethal top deck. Wait, could I have Galvanic Abraded? Oh, instead of playing the Windfall. Yeah, you're right. That would have been better. And I would have played around Epicure. Strictly a better line. Alright. Forgot to record the first couple of turns there, but so far not much has happened, other than our opponent playing apparently a Haste Monkey? So basically this is that modern card that's taking over the format, right? Wild. Luminarch Aspirant. Okay, opponent successfully playing around Jwari Disruption to an impressive extent. I mean, I guess that I Jwari Disruption the creature that they're gonna just keep replaying? This isn't exactly a good Hinata, and we have no follow-up, but it does block, I guess, unless they remove it. Then I'll be sad. At 21k channel points, if we all spend everything we get redeeming Explain QQs, that's sort of like a DDoS attack. Oh, maybe. I sort of suspect that... No! Fateful Absence. I sort of suspect that I would probably just set a limit on how often it was able to be redeemed, though. What am I supposed to do here? I want an Unexpected Windfall discarding Expressive Iteration, so I guess I'm just going to do that. Do I do that at sorcery speed? Probably. Spikefield Hazard. Wow, that would have been good back when the Luminarch Aspirant was a 1/1. Alas. Well, I guess maybe I should have Unexpected Windfall before playing my land drop. It didn't end up mattering, but I do have Fading Hope in the deck. Not quite how Cave the Frost Dragon works. But I'll take it. Could crack a treasure to draw a card here. Unnecessary. Alright, Galvanic Iteration, Unexpected Windfall. I could just discard the Negate so that I can Abrade plus Spikefield the Luminarch Aspirant. Let's go let the cat in, because he's scratching my door. But I do feel kind of tempted that the Negate might actually be useful, so... It's not like the Luminarch Aspirant's gonna kill me or anything, right? What do you think, bud? Yeah? Oh, you think I'm just setting up my own petard, huh? Well, I think we have enough mana to just play Hinata here. Then we have a Negate to protect it. I can just let the Luminarch Aspirant hit me for 5 here. It's probably fine. Touch the Spirit Realm. That doesn't even cost extra mana. It's very rude of you, opponent. Yeah. Could block and then Abrade this, I guess. It's not like I super need this Hinata, and I might need the life. Nah, that's not true. I guess my opponent has a Cave of the Frost Dragon. I don't need life. That's something other people use, because they don't have cards. Oh, hey, cool, Fading Hope. Didn't need life after all. Let's see. I think we hold Hinata back, because I want to be able to block that cave if they do top deck a land. So fair warning ahead of time. With the closer microphone now, we might get some cat on microphone violence. Oh, did I pass through the main phase? Oh well. Kind of got rewarded by the opponent choosing to put the counter on a Luminarch Aspirant anyway. So, my apologies if the microphone gets thwapped by a kitty. Hopefully, if that does happen, it's not too loud. What you gonna do, opponent? You want to attack with a Rabbit Battery? Nope, just an Aspirant. Alright, well I would like to Fading Hope the Aspirant before blocks, because I would really like to know if you have some sort of protection counterspell. I guess if they give protection from blue, then I can't block with Hinata anyway. Expressive Iteration? That's probably fine. Not replaying anything, huh, opponent? Alright, well, I would like to draw a card. Sure. And then I guess I'm probably just going to blow up the Rabbit Battery, because I might as well. Even the chair being thwapped is surprisingly loud. Well, it is a lot closer to that now. Alright, let's give Expressive Iteration a go. Options. Alright, we're going to take this Alchemist's Gambit and do fun stuff with that next turn. And we're going to take this Unexpected Windfall. And this is actually tricky, because I really would like that Abrade. There's a somewhat decent chance my opponent's going to play some kind of flash creature here. Oh, hey, cool, Magma Opus. That's a good card. And we drew the land. Sweet. Alright, no attacking with Hinata. It's not very obvious, but this card does usually have keyword Defender. Oh hey, wow, my opponent played something with Flash. How incredibly unexpected.
Run away. You'll be safer. Let your blade do
Two
the
samurai. We can handle that. So how many turns do I get to take here? Just 2. Bummer. It's too bad that Alchemist's Gambit doesn't do any kind of targeting. What does this card do? Look at the top 7, put any number of non-land permanents, total mana value 4 or less. Sure.
We've got
Mostly I'm assuming that doesn't matter. Okay, so if I am willing to sacrifice all of my treasures, I tap down their entire board. Put them to 19. Put 12 power in play. I guess that's probably lethal. It's less fun lethal than taking a bunch of extra turns, but I mean, it is still lethal. So we're going to deal 1 damage to everything. We're going to tap these 2 down. Oh, I can't do it that way. Okay, we can still fix that. 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage, 1 damage. Yes, tap AO. If you target the same thing for damage and tapping, it doesn't reduce the number of targets, or it doesn't reduce the cost, because targeting the same creature with 2 separate modes is still technically targeting it once. Time Warp targets you? Nope. No target on Time Warp. Unfortunately. The copy, however, it doesn't matter what we target.
always glad to return that. Oh.
Yeah, that's true. I could have just had the target, or the copy do the target. That might be useful to remember in the future. Okay, well, we're gonna go and attack the opponent's face with everything. And then we're gonna take an extra turn. Actual Time Warp targets, that's true, yes. Go to my turn. Go to combat. Swing and kill the opponent. You know, just casually deal 20-something damage with 4 mana on my opponent's end of turn. So Time Warp would cost 1 blue. No, actual Time Warp would cost 4 mana, because it targets 1 player. Alright, well, let's see. Unfortunately, my opponent has a lot of artifact creatures, which is where I'm not certain if Seismic Wave is actually good or not. Feels like it's probably not. You can't target both players with Time Warp, because it only targets 1 player. And it's preferably yourself, because you don't want your opponent taking extra turns. Okay, probably supposed to play Lier, probably supposed to play Smoldering Eggs, and I'm probably supposed to play Thundering Rebuke. I guess I don't need to play Celestus. I guess I don't need to play Galvanic Iteration, necessarily. I'm still really uncertain how I'm supposed to play this with, like, the idea of Smoldering Egg. Could trim Valorous Stance, I guess. Am I supposed to bring in Seismic Wave? I don't know. An interesting opportunity to use Redeem Socks, but I'm not going to fault you for it. I'm just going to question it. Oh, I can cut the Alchemist's Gambits here. For sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. And that does let us bring in Seismic Wave. Or I could keep in a Galvanic Iteration, but that's probably not terribly correct. I'm probably supposed to cut a Valorous Stance for a Seismic Wave, too. You are more than welcome to do what you want. I will not deny you what you want. I will only make fun of you for what you want. Pretty slow and on the draw, so we're going to keep and just draw good cards. Rabbit Battery. Okay. We draw a land, which isn't the most helpful. Rabbit Battery. Alright, I can live with that, because it's not a 2-drop that's scary. Smoldering Egg? Why, that's a good card. That actually, like, blocks things and stuff. Are we taking off, bud? Hold on. No, what if I was to convince you to stay? Oh, no, I can't. Unfortunate. Alright, the opponent spends a bunch of time removing my 2-drop instead of playing things to the board that are scary. We are fine with this. I'm going to get to play Unexpected Windfall into Magma Opus, clearing the board of Rabbit Batteries. Trample, Haste, Sunrise Cavalier. That's actually kind of scary. How about we draw a Fading Hope to deal with that? No? Alright, that's unfortunate. Oh, I probably should not have kept in Negates. That is a good point. Alright, well, we're going to Sorcery Speed the Unexpected Windfall. I do not really want it to turn to night. More Sunrise Cavaliers. Yowzers, opponent. I could Spikefield Hazard a Rabbit Battery here to take 1 less damage. It's going to 3 better. Probably not. I don't see a significant difference between 3 and 2, to be honest. Alright, well, let's Hinata. That stops it from turning day to night. And I think we wait until the beginning of combat to cast Magma Opus. Blade Historian. Yeah, that's admittedly sort of annoying. Well, I can kill the Rabbit Batteries and tap down the Sunrise Cavaliers. Probably that's what I'm supposed to do. Don't you normally want to upkeep Magma Opus tapping down lands? Yes, normally that is true, but in this case the Sunrise Cavaliers are such a threat that... Hold on. That I assumed that I was probably going to need to tap them down instead, which I believe ended up being the case. Maybe not. I guess if they couldn't cast the Blade Historian, I wasn't really accounting for the 4/4 being able to block, but it seemed like there was too much possibility the opponent could do something with 2 mana that, like, Thunderous Rebukes my... Well, no. I guess there wasn't really something the opponent could do. Yeah, maybe that wasn't correct. Abrade seems fun. Alright, well, let's see. I would like to... Abrade Blade Historian, and then play Lier, and then probably Abrade a Sunrise Cavalier. Let's attack with the 4/4. Pass to the opponent's turn. Hey, Miss Shay and Z Gaming TTV. Thanks for the follows. Glad you're enjoying the stream. Kill the Historian, tap the Cavaliers. I don't believe we had the ability... I don't think we had enough mana to kill the Blade Historian with Magma Opus. I think that would have cost 4 mana and we had 3. Okay, well, let's see. 8, 11. Could try to go for lethal here. If I just deal 4 damage to the face with Magma Opus, put them to 11, swing with everything, tap down the Sunrise Cavaliers. Are we willing to go for that? No, because if they just have the last card in hand be the Emperor, we lose. I can't Abrade Planeswalkers, right? No. We have Negate, but there's a Lier in play, so I can't actually negate. Opponent currently possibly disconnected while choosing the order to stack the Sunrise Cavalier triggers in. So I could Abrade 1 Sunrise Cavalier. No, because it costs how much mana to Magma Opus, dealing 4. It costs 5 mana? It's probably safest to just kill the Cavaliers and not try to push through lethal this turn. I think there's a very low chance the opponent could possibly kill me here anyway. No. Okay, well, it's just Jwari Shelter, so I guess then I just win. 4 damage to face. Tap these 2 down. Pretty sure that's lethal. Looks like lethal to me. Oh, that's cute. Protection from red stops it from getting a counter. Anyway. Alright. Flashing back a Magma Opus with Lier is everything I ever hoped it could be. If we want to compare a card to Vraska's Contempt, we should probably just compare Parasitic Grasp to Vraska's Contempt and ask ourselves, why was Vraska's Contempt never this good? I'm not seeing a lot of control so far, so no worry of a 2-for-1 against counterspells. Windfall, I originally thought was going to be like a bad card against counterspells. And there's a really weird sort of dichotomy, I guess, in play there, which is, yes, Windfall is bad to get hit by a counterspell, but Windfall is also an incredibly powerful card to resolve against any deck playing counterspells. And because of the way that the sequencing of games tends to go, the end conclusion is Windfall is worth it and good to play against counterspell decks, even though it is bad against counterspells. You just have so much control over when it resolves that if the rest of your deck is built around punishing your opponent for playing around leaving up counterspells for Windfall, then you just are pretty much fine. Raise Fang? Oh no! I mean, I could have Abrade that, but I could also Fading Hope it. But I could also Abrade it. But I could also Fading Hope it. Decisions. If my opponent's playing a vehicle deck, I don't know. Don't I want like Abrade to be able to hit vehicles or something? I do want a Hinata. I'm pretty confident in that. What if we hit an untapped blue source? No? Alright. Bummer. Well, we'll put a Galvanic in hand. I'm sure we'll find something to do with that. We'll play our little blue source. You bait out the counterspell so you can resolve your win con? Sort of. Not necessarily. It's not like you actually want to get Windfall countered. That's still bad. It's just control mirrors, which Windfall decks tend to be control decks, tend to be these weird sort of dances almost of who does something first, because the first player to do something gives the other player the chance to actually resolve something. And Windfall decks, as they are currently built, are very good at waiting longer. And then when the opponent does eventually do something, when they give you the tiniest opening, then you resolve Windfall, you get your treasures, and suddenly you're way ahead of what they were doing. Because, say your opponent goes to resolve, like, an Edgar, or a Sorin the Mirthless. Well, you just cast your Unexpected Windfall in response, and it turns out 2 treasures is actually worth more than a Planeswalker. Kind of by a lot. Alright, I think we just play Hall of the Storm Giants here and pass... Actually, no. We Fading Hope Edgar back to their hand. I don't want them to sacrifice Edgar in response to my Fading Hope with a... whatever the name of that 2-drop sacrifice instant is. Because then it transforms, they draw cards, makes treasures. I don't actually remove anything from their board with Fading Hope. That'd be bad. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be that bad because I'd still have Abrade, but it wouldn't be good. Alright, we are a tiny bit low on spells that do things, which is a slight concern. Bankbuster. That's going to be some annoying amounts of value. Do I Abrade that? I can Abrade the Greasefang too when they go to replay it to try to get back the Bankbuster. Not exciting. But I can't let them sit around with a Bankbuster. Well, let's see. Oilish 13? Maybe? Thanks for the thanks for the sub. I appreciate the support. So they chose not to draw a card there, which is kind of wild. Not what I would have expected. Wish we could just play Draw Go again. That's basically what we're doing. Although we have a little bit more of a like sorcery speed win con thing going on. Yeah, that makes me think the opponent probably is going to play the Emperor here. Oh, hey, we drew the best card that was possible. I love when that happens. Alright, opponent, you can probably play your Emperor thing now. I'm going to Galvanic Windfall in response. It'll be swell. Red mana. Interesting. What does red mana mean? Any reason why Bankbuster doesn't get a slot in this list? We don't have the creatures to crew it, and it's just way too slow and mana inefficient compared to, like, most of the options we have. I think Bankbuster is a little overhyped. It's the 2 modes on it are kind of awkwardly disparate. It's a card draw engine, and it's a sort of aggressive creature. It's kind of like a modal card in that it does 2 different roles acceptably. Also, they didn't do anything, which was interesting. Yeah, Bankbuster is not Maze Mind Tome. Not at all. I presume they want to draw a card and lose a life here. Red discard outlet, the red-white one maybe? The red-white discard outlet. What red-white discard outlet is there in Standard? But also, most discard outlets, if you really want to do like Greasefang stuff... Oh, not attacking with Edgar? I'm not actually sure why not, but okay, I'll take it. But most red-white discard outlets, and most decks that want discard outlets, want you to, like, discard early and then reanimate on turn 3 with Greasefang. So if you're splashing red for a discard outlet that you want to play on the first 2 turns, that's a little hard to make function. They're afraid of the Emperor? Maybe? Does the Emperor exile? I would be curious if that was the case. It does. Okay, well, I will just be absolutely thrilled if my opponent wants to respect cards that I don't play. Well, somehow we actually don't have anything to do. So I guess we're just gonna block Edgar with all the Storm Giants and then Abrade Henrika. But they're probably gonna transform Henrika, which makes that not viable. I guess I could double Abrade Henrika. Not terribly exciting. Huh. So they're willing to throw Henrika into an Emperor, but not Edgar? Curious. But, okay. Well, I'm just gonna double Abrade Henrika then. We do need to top deck card advantage. That is currently the life we live. Magma Opus would be cool. Do we need to abrade the coffin? We couldn't abrade the coffin in any way with only one copy of Abrade, because all the copies will always be a copy of whatever mode we chose for the first Abrade. So I could cast 3 Abrades that deal damage, or 3 Abrades that destroy treasures. That's annoying. Alright. Well, I don't actually have any cards that do anything, which is sort of bad for me. Highly inconvenient, but I kind of have to animate all the Storm Giants. I can't really afford to go to 8 here. Not when the opponent has a Menace land on board. Okay. Well, that could be worse for me. Technically. Could also be better. But it means they're not actually playing out the Grease Fang, so they don't have lethal through my Hinata on board. Jeez! Alright. We have not drawn, like, no cards. We played a Windfall and an Expressive Iteration. We still just haven't actually found, like, any payoffs. Alright, down to 4. Not a comfy spot to be. If we draw a Magma Opus, we can copy it. We would like to do that. We would like to do that. In fact, we can probably win if we top deck Magma Opus here, but there's not a lot of other cards we could top deck that'll get us there. Cool, we top decked a Magma Opus. So that's fun. So let's see. I can do 3 damage and 1 damage, and then 3 damage and then 1 damage to wipe the board here. And then tap down Cave and Hive, and then possibly something else depending on what else they play. I need to do Magma Opus in their main phase so that Grease Fang doesn't trigger, but on the off chance they play something with haste. I mean, I guess I'm going to get 2 4/4s. That should be fine. Alright, and then we go 3 and 1, and tap and tap. Downside of this being they do get to use all this mana at sorcery speed that I'm tapping down. And then 3 and 1, and tap red, and tap black-white. Alright, well hopefully drawing 4 cards finds something good. In the meantime, we have a bunch of 4/4s. If we draw another Magma Opus, we're not going to be able to copy it. We'll be 1 mana short. after our land drop, unless we also top deck a Galvanic Iteration, but I think we already used 2, so drawing the 3rd isn't particularly likely. Well, we could draw Hinata, which actually cheapens the Magma Opus enough that we could copy it, I think. We draw an Abrade for the Coffin. That's kind of nice. And Hinata handles Cave of the Frost Dragon, which is also kind of nice. Another Edgar. Less nice. Negate, kind of nice. Although we lack for card advantage currently. Could Abrade the Edgar if I don't want the Edgar in play. Do I not want the Edgar in play? 4 life is a tough spot to be with the opponent still having 2 creature lands. I think we just blow up the Coffin, unfortunately. Maybe I'm not supposed to do that. Maybe I'm just supposed to let the Edgar be in play, not doing anything. The 2/2s were irrelevant. The Edgar can't attack without Legendary ruling, and then I Abrade the Coffin after that. Maybe I'm just supposed to stick around and let that Coffin get 3 2/2s? But I don't... I'm at 2, and if I don't top deck well, then they just get to a point where they have 3 2/2s, an Edgar, and animate both lands and swing, and I don't have enough blockers. So I'm not sure if I can actually afford to take that gamble. Unclear. Oh, Tibble. Alright, that explains the red splash. Luckily not scary. Thank you, Negate. I would like to top deck something that draws cards. Expressive Iteration counts, thank you. I am desperate enough to not fizzle on my card draw that I will copy this Expressive Iteration. Oh, hey, cool, the opponent's willing to give up on that. Sweet. Good enough for me. Well, take care, hey, Miss Shay. Thanks for stopping by. It was nice meeting you, too. Let's see. What are we supposed to do against the white-black vehicle sort of deck? We did not see a lot of stuff that Greasefang was actually buying back other than Reckoner Bankbuster. Maybe that's just supposed to be good enough. Unclear. And what happened to my elbow? Got like rug burn on it or something that's bugging me. Okay, so default playing against black-white. Board in for Behold the Multiverse, because we want more card advantage. I can probably afford to cut Fading Hopes. I can probably afford to bring in Disdainful Strokes. I can probably keep Abrade given the opponent's playing at least 1 4/3. And some vehicles that seem meaningful. Valorous Stance. Unclear what removal the opponent's likely to board into that would hit Hinata, but Valorous Stance might still be useful against it. But I'm going to guess probably not worthwhile. It's always tough to figure out what to board out when we're boarding into a pile of Behold the Multiverses. Especially since I actually want to keep in all the Abrades this time around. Let's go with cut an Expressive Iteration and cut... I guess maybe 1 Behold the Multiverse, since this is a deck that's actually theoretically aggressive. No, I suspect I got this while walking, if anything. Probably on, like, the jacket I was wearing. Okay, I think we can swing this. Expressive Iteration is decent. We did see the opponent playing one of those 2-drops that put +1/+1 counters on something. So I think I actually do hold up Spikefield Hazard here. Why are we not citing Hullbreaker? I don't think there's very many matchups where Hullbreaker is particularly good. Hey, look, it's that +1/+1 counter thing that I decided to hold up the Spikefield Hazard for. I'm glad that I thought of that in time to, you know, not die to it. I like when that happens. Wedding Announcement is a negatable card, and I will do that because it would suck to get hit by. Let's see. Do I want to hold up Disdainful Stroke for a 4-drop? Do I want to jam Celestus, or do I want to play Expressive Iteration? It's tempting to just jam Celestus. That way next turn I can Expressive Iteration and hold up Disdainful Stroke, but... playing Celestus into Expressive Iteration isn't very exciting. If the opponent plays Edgar... I guess I don't, like, super care if the opponent plays Edgar. I don't like it, but I think it's acceptable enough that I just deploy the Celestus. A Sorin I don't care as much about, because I don't care about them getting long-term card advantage as much as I care about me losing long-term life points. So, like... okay, cool. If my opponent does nothing, then yeah, it's just totally fine. Alright, I guess we can get rid of a Stormcarved Coast in the interest of playing Expressive Iterations. And that is to say, Sorin does not pressure me as much as an Edgar does. Okay, well... I don't actually need more card advantage here, do I? I kinda do. What if the opponent hits me with, like, a discard spell? Then I'd want more card advantage. So we're gonna take more card advantage. And then we're kind of just gonna pass. I don't have a super efficient way to spend the rest of this mana, but I think I need to leave up Disdainful Stroke. Hey, it's a big, scary thing that I want a Disdainful Stroke. So we're gonna counter that. Because that's the correct thing to do. Alright, well, I can take a Negate and an Unexpected Windfall, and I can play the Unexpected Windfall, discarding Unexpected Windfall, because that's the least card advantage-y of the cards in my hand. And we can pass, holding up Negate, and we can get rid of the Spikefield Hazard, because everything else is sort of mana advantage, or card advantage, or, I don't know, stuff. 6-drop Lolth, that's sort of scary, so we're going to counter it. I do have to lose mana to do that, which is a bummer, but, you know. Gotta spend mana to make mana. Or something like that. Well, I want to make a land drop here, so we're going to Behold the Multiverse. Magma Opus is kind of fun, but I might have enough of that. And I need more land drops anyway. Or we could also just draw a Magma Opus. That's also a option. Well, I'm going to tell the opponent that they're free to resolve something. But I want to use my mana efficiently, so we're telling Behold the Multiverse regardless. Luckily, they don't have something particularly threatening. Just a wedding announcement. Hinata, that's fun. Pretty strong chance the opponent's on a removal spell for Hinata, though. I would rather just make land drops for the time being and maybe play Hinata later. Oh, land drop and Galvanic Iteration. Perfect. Alright, so you're telling me I have exactly enough mana to copy Windfall, huh? Discarding, I guess, Magma Opus? Well, that's fine. I guess I could discard Hinata. I'm probably likely to draw back into a Hinata. Yeah, I mean, Do I really need to put a creature on the board that gives my opponent something to remove? Not discarding the Gambit? Oh, no, 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 no. Plan for next turn is to cast the Gambit.
I am vengeance, bloody and righteous.
We're gonna Galvanic Unexpected Windfall here, and then probably Galvanic Alchemist's Gambit next turn. Opponent wants to draw more cards with their Sorin. They find a spell that's a decent removal spell for Hinata. Does cost more mana than they have, but... Anyway, we're just gonna not have a Hinata anymore. Solve that problem cleanly. More Galvanics. Lovely. Alright, well, let's see. How much mana do we have? 8, 9, 13 is 5 plus 7 is 13? It sounds like the right amount of mana. 4 plus 4. Oh, wait, no. Am I wrong? 5 plus 7... 5 plus 7 is definitely 12. Oh well, that means I get to have more treasures. Okay. I'm assuming this is probably lethal? Oh, hey, cool, Hinata. Alright, well, let's go ahead and Hinata, and then cast this Galvanic, which is the wrong order. I'm supposed to Galvanic first before Hinata in case the opponent has a removal spell for the Hinata. But, you know, so be it. I will learn that eventually. In this case, the opponent doesn't have anywhere near enough mana for that to matter. Oh no, I screwed up. Oh wait, cancel. I can go back. Perfect. Okay. Damage, 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 damage. Tap that and tap the Sorin. Definitely more correct to tap the Sorin. That way the opponent loses without having any untapped permanents in play.
I will not spare you.
Strictly optimal. Make a land drop, go to combat, swing at the opponent with everything. So we were only going to do like 60 damage. Oh yeah, the White March is actually... Well, they don't have enough cards in hand to cast the White March on Hinata, do they? I mean, they do, but we know Soul Shatter's not a white card, so didn't have to worry about that.